If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
I would like to talk about Earl Weaver's honoree this weekend. He is being honored at Oriole Park of Camden Yards. And I think when most people look at Earl Weaver now, or they do a Google search on Earl Weaver now, basically what they know is watching him argue with an umpire, or having that argument with Bill Haller in 1980, or the infamous manager's corner where he used a few words he probably shouldn't have used. And you can ask Alice Sweet about that. But Earl Weaver's more than that. He always has been in this area. He's always been a legend in Baltimore. He took over in 1968 from Hank Bauer with the Orioles struggling. And the first season he was there, half the season he was there, they were 48 and 34. The next 3 seasons, the team won 109, 108, and 101 games. All 3 of those seasons, the Orioles were in the World Series. In 1970, they were fortunate enough to win. 69 and 71, they fell to the Pittsburgh Pirates and to the Mets. Earl also won 6 Eastern Division titles. His teams won 6 Eastern Division titles while he was manager. He had 5 100-win seasons and an all-time winning percentage of .583. So the team won 58% of their games when Earl Weaver was the manager. Granted, he had a lot of talent during this time, but there was also a lot of team chemistry, which a lot of teams, especially if you look nowadays, there is no team chemistry anymore. He was very strong fundamentally. He always had a very strong fundamental team. Yes, it's easy to do when you have Brooks Robinson, Mark Belanger, Paul Blair, etc. But still, you have to make everyone work together to be able to make it to have team chemistry and to be fundamental. He was an innovator. He was one of the first managers to use statistics to help him out. He was one of the first ones to use platooning. 1979 season, Gary Renicky, Benny Ayala, John Lowenstein platooned in left field and pretty much hit they hit about 45 home runs that season. And it was just amazing watching the platooning and how it worked. Everything he seemed to do, unfortunately until the World Series, seemed to work for him. Yes, he did argue a lot. He got thrown out of over 90 games, but that was more of a passion and a want, a will to win. He always wanted his teams to win, and that's why a lot of the passion that he had, and that's why a lot of the arguments came into play. A lot of times, from what I read in his book, it's what you know before you know it all that counts. He mentioned that there were a few times he went out just to try to get his team motivated, got himself thrown out of the game. And that's Earl Weaver. He wanted to win no matter what. He had a lot of conflicts with players, a lot of conflicts with Jim Palmer are pretty well known. But again, he knew how to win, he knew how to motivate, and the hardest thing for him to do was to have to release a player. I was reading this past weekend that even if he had to release a player, he got very upset about it, and a lot of times was driven to tears. So a lot of people don't know that side of Earl Weaver. The fans loved him. 1982, at the end of the season, when they went to the last game of the season against Milwaukee, when the game was over, they gave him a standing ovation. They had him come out. They did an Orioles cheer. It was a memory that a lot of people will never forget, and it just showed how the city of Baltimore loved Earl Weaver. Arguments. There were so many arguments that people remember. I specifically remember the one where he came out with the rule book. Umpire just ignored him. He actually tore the book up into shreds. There was others. He actually had a forfeit. He actually had a game forfeited because of problems with tarp on the field. But again, a lot of this happened because he wanted to win, not because he just wanted to be a pain. I remember that. I remember those issues. I remember him with his famous pitching, 3-run homer, defense. I remember him tearing up the rule book. I remember him specifically turning his hat around just to get closer to the umpire, not touching him or not pushing or anything, but close enough that he could get in the umpire's face. Earl Weaver is a legend in Baltimore and in baseball. He always has been. He'll always be remembered not only for the arguments, not only for his passion, not only for his gruff exterior, but for winning, as his teams won throughout his tenure as the Orioles manager.
All right, we'll step out, take a break. So they just stop in the middle of stream. I don't know.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.